So you've just slipped up. You caught yourself overeating. Maybe you're midway through doing it, or it's already happened, and now you're sitting in the aftermath of having completely lost control with food. In today's Live at Lunch, we're going to chat about exactly what to do. The next 1 hour, the next 24 hours are critical when you're really starting to tackle these out of control behaviors and compulsive eating behaviors. What you do next is so important, from preventing one little mistake spiraling into an absolute shit show, excuse my French. And the reason we want to stop that from happening is because every time you spiral out of control and it just keeps going, not only do you feel worse, but also you just keep those old habits wired into that brain. So today's video is going to be so important. You might want to save it, bookmark it, do whatever you need to do, because everybody who's trying to change their relationship with food is going to have a time, if not many, where they fall off the horse, where they had good intention, it doesn't work out, old habits, old compulsions come roaring back, they're too hard to resist, or you don't even notice it kicking off. Sometimes people will tell me they wake up midway through their binge, and I know what that feels like. A bit like, I mean, not the same at all, but a bit like driving home, and then you find yourself at your own house, and you're kind of like, how did I get here? That is how hardwired some of these behaviors can be, and that's how automated some of them are. So what you do next is so important, because we don't want to keep showing the brain that this is behavior you're going to continue to do, because the more you don't do it, the more it wires in the new behaviors. So the next little while is so important. The next 24 hours are absolutely critical. So I'm going to give you some absolute a clear and direct set of steps and tools for you to use to make sure that a little mistake, a little slip up, doesn't turn into a full-blown relapse. Hello, Freedom Family. It's Wednesday afternoon here in Parma. I think it's Wednesday in most places of the world, but not necessarily in the afternoon. If you're new to the channel, my name's Helen Bennett. I am a coach who helps people stop losing control, to stop with food, to stop overeating and compulsive eating. And this is probably one of the most important skills, and I'm going to call it the skill, to master. It's how to become resilient AF. And I'll tell you why you need this skill. It's because there's no going cold turkey with food. We can't just make ourselves a decision that we're never going to eat again. We're never going to touch any food again, and we can lock ourselves away from that substance and that behavior. You will need to eat again, guaranteed. And because of that, and often a few times a day, and because of that, the multitude of repetitions that you have to get right in order to begin changing this bad boy, or this whole neurophysiology, is going to take a lot of, it's going to take a lot of repetitions, but it also means, because you're eating so regularly, and you can't just go cold turkey on the behavior of eating, because that's actually the compulsion, you are inevitably going to have moments that are extremely challenging, or where, despite all your best intentions, something goes wrong and you end up going beyond that tipping point and pressing the fuck it button. Again, sorry for my language. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I do understand, but I find it really helpful in the way that I coach sometimes, to really emphasize certain things. And specifically in that moment when you catch yourself pressing that fuck it button, where you were doing okay, and then boom, everything after that is disaster. That's exactly that moment, isn't it? That you're trying to reclaim that power of going, no, we don't need to keep going. We've had enough. We're done. We're good. And my job is to help people not only stop pressing the fuck it button, but working out what made them want to press the fuck it button and what led to that in the first place. And then if you do press it, what the hell to do next. If you're listening to this and you get value from today's video, please like this video. It will help boost this content to all the many people who are struggling silently with disordered eating, overeating, compulsive eating, binge eating, whatever, however you define it. It's really all same. And I think a lot of people are struggling in silence. And it would be great to know that if you've got value from this and you smash the like button, and if you really love it, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know every time I'm going live. But that will just help this. It will tell YouTube that this content is valuable to you, and YouTube will start finding other people that need to hear it as well. So Do me a favor and hit that like button if you get value from today. And if you don't, let me know in the comments so that I can make sure I can improve, right? I'm only a human being and I want to do better. So let's dive in, because you came here to find out what to do next if you've just had a slip. I call it a slip, by the way, before we get properly into today's conversation. I call it a slip because I read a book, I think it was Sharu Izadi, who has a book called The Kindness Method about habit change. And she defines slips, lapses, and relapses differently. And I actually love that. And I've completely stolen it from her, because it's not all same. Maybe one day you just overeat a bit. We might call that a slip. I could feel I needed to stop. I could feel I was satiated. I knew I didn't need more. And I just went beyond that limit, and it felt a bit bingy. I wasn't really in control, but it wasn't the end of the world. I stopped, I moved on, I got on with my day. It was a little slip, right? A lapse, we might define in this instance, when we're talking about compulsive eating, a lapse, when I work with clients, we call a lapse something like 24 hours where it's been a full day of, I pressed the fuck it button and it just kept going. And eventually somebody gets to bed. Sleep is a wonderful reset. I mean, we all know this, right? You get to bed, it sort of stops all the chaos in its tracks, and you reset and you start again tomorrow. And this video will apply to that. So if you're waking up the following morning after having a horrific day with food the day before, and you're feeling all the feels, this video is going to be so important to make sure you don't repeat the same thing again. And then a relapse, I define in the disordered eating circles as 3 days or more of it's just continuing and getting worse and worse and worse. That snowball is starting to really gain momentum and starting to move horribly in the wrong direction. And usually that's a point at which, if I'm working with anybody, I would say, when I work with somebody, we actually do a lot of WhatsApp comms between calls, especially initially. But I always say to somebody, if we've stopped working together or for whatever reason, and they're on their way, and I always say, listen, this stuff is tough and something might come up and trip you up again. And if it ever does, and it's starting to look like you're heading in the wrong direction, you let me know. And a relapse is, but if you haven't started reaching out to your therapist, your coach, or whoever you're working with to help you change these behaviors, then by day 3, you definitely need to be working out. If day 3 is happening, this is not I can fix this on my own problem anymore. This is, you know what? Let me rather reach out, get some help before this gets worse, because I don't want 3 days to turn into 3 weeks, to turn into 3 months. Because every day that you're wiring something into your brain, it's starting to hardwire. And 3 days kind of that critical point at which it's starting to turn into a new habit again, right? So a slip up is no big deal. 3 days of slipping up, it's not the end of the world. We can pull you out of that, but it's just going to be harder, and you've already done so much work. So prioritize yourself and reach out if you're into 3 days or more of spiraling out of control. Okay, let's dive in. So you've just slipped up. You want to make sure it doesn't turn into a lapse or a relapse. You don't want to just keep going. What do? Number 1, acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it happened. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be cruel. Just, okay, that is what happened. One of the things we might do as human beings is it can be so painful to witness ourselves doing something that we had no intention of doing, or we know that it's not serving us, that we can kind of go a bit numb and switch off from what's happening, and or just skip past it. Oh, it happened, no problem, I'll just get on. Nothing to see here. But actually, the best thing we can do is just go, whoa, okay, that just happened. You'll notice that it's firm, it's compassionate. You'll hear me talk about this a lot. It's not mean, it's not cruel, it's not bullying, it's not suck it up, buttercup. It's acknowledging what happened without making it worse than it is. It's just the truth. This is the reality. This is exactly what's just happened. And I went beyond, I lost control, I didn't realize I was doing it. Whatever the truth is for you. I knew I wanted to stop and I didn't, right? Okay, that's what happened. Now I'm feeling pretty shitty. That is true. These are all true, right? What is physiologically going on for you? How are you actually feeling? Bloated, uncomfortable, sick, whatever. Make a note, right? Just get clear on what your reality is without the headworms telling you a bigger story. Just acknowledge it for what it is and not worse than it is. Step 1. Step number 2. You're going to want to probably spiral into a cycle of guilt and shame. Those are understandable emotions because you're trying to live up to something that's so important to you. You want to break free of these behaviors. Excuse me. And you want to do better. So uncomfortable or bad emotion, not bad, like they make you feel bad. Emotions that make you feel bad are understandable. But here's the differentiation I want to give you today. Guilt and shame, chuck them out the window. You're not somebody who's bad. You didn't do anything bad. You are not bad. These are behaviors that you've repeated multiple times and for good reason. And if that doesn't make sense to you, you can let me know and I'll shoot another video about that. But when you dig into the weeds here, you realize that in many ways, your eating behaviors, even though they're compulsive and maybe horrific and they disgust you or whatever, they have actually been solving a problem. And the more you realize that, the more you can just let go of that idea that you need to feel bad or shameful. And rather allow yourself this feeling, disappointment. So disappointment still feels pretty sucky, but it's very different to guilt and shame. Guilt is, I've done something bad or I am a bad person. Neither of those things are true. And if you don't believe that, then book a call to chat to me and I will show you in no uncertain terms. In that first call, you're going to get a clear sense of why you have been using these behaviors all along. They are solving a problem. And if you don't know what problem they're solving, I can help you figure that out in one call. That I guarantee. So guilt and shame, we're throwing those out the window because they'll only make you feel worse. And then what do you do when you feel bad? You reach for food, right? Sometimes it's punishment. Sometimes it's escape from the bad feelings. But we don't want you reaching for food just because of a story you're telling yourself about being a bad human being. So instead, let's rather allow some disappointment. Disappointment is, man, I really wanted that to go a different way. I've been working so hard on this. I was trying so hard. I was doing all my homework. I was doing all my tummy check-ins. I was writing down all my headworms. I was busting them up. And I still fell into that old behavior. And I'm really upset that it happened. Absolutely you are. It would be weird if you weren't. Who wouldn't be upset if they were trying hard at something and then it didn't go the way they were hoping for? If I was learning, I don't know, a new sport and maybe I'm trying to learn to play football and I just can't for the life of me under match conditions get the ball in the net. But meanwhile, I've been practicing and practicing and practicing. But on the day, I just can't seem to do it yet. Yeah, I'd be disappointed. Would I feel guilt and shame? No. I'm not a bad person. I'm a person who clearly needs to practice more and is going to have to find different ways of figuring out how to calm my nerves and right? It's the same with the food. This is something that you're either not good at doing yet or behaviors that are so hardwired that they were just automated. You didn't even realize you were doing the wrong thing until you woke up mid-binge, right? So disappointment, yes. And in fact, as a coach, this is going to sound weird, but I want you to feel the disappointment of that. Feel how it makes you feel physiologically. It doesn't feel good. It feels, when I think of disappointment, I feel like my heart's sinking. I feel heavy. I feel like I want to just curl away from it. And it's such an awful feeling. I don't want to feel it again. And disappointment, although it's kind of a painful emotion, when we actually allow ourselves to feel it and acknowledge it's not because we're a bad person, it's because we were trying hard and it didn't work, then that's okay. Because that painful feeling will be the feeling that we will want to avoid the next time we catch ourselves in that fuck it button moment. When the more you do this work, the more you start slowing everything down, the more you start to see the binge, you staying conscious as all these things are leading into it. There will suddenly come a time where with enough of this work, you'll notice a little whisper that comes in and says, okay, you could press the fuck it button, but you know how you're going to feel tomorrow. And that didn't feel so good. And I know how you want to feel. You want to feel pride and freedom and integrity. You want to feel like the thing you were working hard on, you succeeded at. And as we start to build the pleasure in not doing the behaviors versus the pain of doing the behaviors, you'll naturally move away from pain into pleasure. So staying in the pain for a little bit, actually really feel it without self-flagellation, without feeling like you've done something wrong, you're a bad person, because that will just make you want to eat some more. This is actually the pain of, man, I'm gonna have to try again. And I want to, because I don't want to feel this. I'm not a bad person, but I'm allowed disappointment. Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to not feeling it the next time. And in fact, I'm looking forward to feeling the opposite, which is pride, that I managed to finally get the ball in the net, right? There's a, oh yeah, I finally did it. That's a good feeling. Then you want to celebrate, right? And a lot of people are not good at celebration either, but that's a whole different story. So in this moment, you're going to acknowledge it. You're going to allow yourself disappointment, get rid of guilt and shame. And the third thing I want you to do is just take a moment to reflect. So before you're moving on with the rest of your day, because a lot of people just want to jump out of the pain of all of this and move on. Rather, take a moment to learn, just to reflect on what was going on in your mind. What were your thoughts? I bet your thoughts had something to do with it. Had you just have a fight with somebody? Were you bored? Were you angry? Were you excited? I mean, all sorts of emotions can lead to eating, right? Were you tired? Was there nothing really going on? Just acknowledge, like, wow, let's have a look-see. Let's just check to see if there was anything that was making me want to escape it or numb it or soothe it, or was I trying to punish myself? What was going on here? Let's have a look at my thoughts. Let's have a look at what was going on at that time. What had happened just a few moments before? Let's just have a look, see if we can learn anything. Was there something specific that happened that made me go from not overeating to overeating? Was there a thought that I thought, or something somebody said, or email that I got? Or what could it be? Is there anything I can see? Maybe there's something to learn here that I can prepare for next time, right? And if you catch something, by God, take a moment to think, okay, well, wow, I was really tired and I was bored and I didn't want to carry on working. And oh my gosh, I was eating to kind of escape that. Okay, well, sure, when that happens again, if I can slow it down and I can catch it, next time I might just take a deep breath and remind myself that, there's work to be done and it's not that fun, but food's not going to help make me feel better. So maybe I just got to put my head down, or maybe I need to get outside for 10 minutes. This is such a common one. I see this a lot, just men and women who are actually exhausted and are using food as a way to break the monotony of some boring work, or just make the last few hours of the day a bit easier because it's so tough and they're trying to find something pleasurable to do. That's a common one, but there are a multitude of options. What I can tell you for sure is you will have your own unique set. And if you can stay in this long enough to just learn from that slip up, brilliant, 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 brilliant. Because the next time you're so much more likely to not do it. And here's actually something I've just remembered. I was listening to a Dr. Huberman podcast where he said our brain learns, rewires much faster when we have made a mistake than at any other time. Because the pain or sort of the embarrassment of that mistake actually forces that awareness where your brain goes, oh God, I don't want to feel that again. I don't like mistakes. Mistakes aren't good. That's not comfortable. And actually you get this amazing rewiring. And what comes to mind is when I was learning, well, I still am learning to speak Spanish. But when I first arrived in Mallorca, and I would try and stumble out a few words, and then, somebody would correct me, I was so embarrassed. I mean, fair enough. I was just learning, but my inner little girl was like, oh my God, I failed. And I never made those mistakes again. So the sting of a mistake is very powerful to help us learn fast. When it turns into guilt and shame and self-flagellation, it can move in the wrong direction, right? Okay, so you've acknowledged it. You've allowed yourself disappointment. You learned what was going on. What could I do differently next time? And now you get to move on from it. And you get to make a decision on what's next. So we're letting go of, I'm a piece of rubbish and I'm never going to improve. And this is just a numbers game. The more you get good at this, the more your brain and body will change. That is inevitable. And there is an inevitable moment in time when you will break free of these compulsions. You will break the cycles. You'll break the habits. You'll have all the insights and all the tools to deal with negative emotions in a better way, and blah, 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 blah. And you will be doing things differently, and you simply won't have that same automated response. So now is the time when you remember that, this is actually just a game of repetition. And the more you can be doing the right thing, the thing that actually works, And the more often you do it, it is inevitable with enough times in the saddle that your whole neurobiology will change, your neurochemistry will change, and you simply won't overeat out of habit or boredom or just because something tastes nice, whatever the case may be, right? Everybody's different. So actually on that, there's 4 reasons generally that people, actually there's 5, that people overeat, compulsively eat. One is exhaustion. We've spoken about that. It's that kind of, I'm exhausted, I'm just going to eat to try and keep myself awake. And I did a whole video about that, about the danger zone, the biggest danger zone. Because exhaustion isn't really emotion. It's actually a physiological thing that's going on in your body. And your body very naturally craves sweet foods, easy digestible foods in those moments. And people reach for those foods understandably and then feel bad and guilt and shame. And so the cycle spirals down. But actually, you're probably just exhausted. So exhaustion, hunger, obviously. Hunger is the one I really want you to eat for. That's the one time, if you can get clear on hunger, that's exactly when you're meant to be eating. Not denying it, not suppressing it, not trying to avoid it, just really trying to allow yourself what it wants, no matter what it is in that moment. So you eat for exhaustion, you eat for hunger, you eat out of habit. It could just be time and place. Now, this is more rare, right? The people that I'm working with generally are being triggered by other things. But sometimes we do a lot of this work and they just start to notice that actually there's nothing going on. No big deal, nothing, they're not exhausted. It's just a certain time of day or a certain place that has that automatic behavior kicked in where they feel that desire to do that behavior because that's what they always did. A bit like if I asked you to tie up your shoelaces a different way today, you actually would have to really think about it because you've automatically been tying them in such a specific way. Or here's a better one. If I said to you, which leg do you put through your underwear first when you put on your underwear? You won't be sure. You might have to go and actually put on some to find out which leg it is. And then I'm going to ask you to swap it. It's going to take a while to automate that. That's just habit. That's just something you've drilled in numerous times. You don't even think about it. You're not consciously thinking, okay, I've got to put my left leg in, then my right leg. Nothing. It's just so automatic. Your brain is offline. And that's what happens sometimes with food. It's just time and place. You're always used to do it. So your brain's expecting it. So it just automates the behavior. So hunger, habit, exhaustion. And then these two tend to be a little interlinked. And this is where the real work happens. Thoughts and emotions. Now, the great news is that for the most part, you can become masterful at choosing what you need to be thinking over time, wiring in new thoughts and beliefs, and learning to sit with any uncomfortable emotions that might arise from those thoughts and beliefs. And if an automatic emotion comes up for you, you'll get really good at breathing to bring that emotion down, but also coming up with a new narrative to tell yourself. It might even just look like soothing. The very thing that you're reaching for to food for, you might begin to do with your own thoughts. Not might, will. That's the skill, right? And you'll only learn that through making mistakes and doing all of this work, and you'll get there. But in this moment, you've got the learning. You know why you did it, or you've got a sense of it. You're starting to get better. And then you remind yourself that it's just a matter of time before you're really good at those things where you're exhausted, you feel you want to overeat, but you're really good at stopping. You're hungry, you learn to eat for hunger. It's a habit, you break the habit because you recognize the habit and you push on through. Thoughts and emotions, brilliant. You're getting all the skills and drills to make sure that those automatic responses to those thoughts and emotions are not causing you to overeat. You see how this is a big thing? But the good news is it's all doable. And this is when you just remind yourself, hey ho, it happened. But you know what? I'm just going to keep on trucking. And it is inevitable that this will get easier. And it is inevitable there will come a time that freedom is as automatic as putting on my undercrackers. There will come a time, I can guarantee you, this is not me woo-woo. This is called neurophysics, neurobiology. It is inevitable. You keep practicing a new thing, it becomes easy and automatic, or easy and automagical, as my coach told me. So that's the thing. Remind yourself that the sooner you get back to trying again, the faster you'll make change. Just like if you were learning a sport, it's disappointing you didn't get your goal, but it is inevitable with enough practice and some learning and coaching and all the things, you'll get that ball in. And then once you've got it in once, you're going to keep practicing until you can do it with your eyes closed, Beckham style. All right? So remind yourself of that, lift your head high, and then get on with your day. Now, if you feel in danger, what I would do at this point is just out loud or write it down, have a clear map for the rest of your day. Right, I'm feeling desperate, done, right, okay. Helen, you're going to get back to work, you're going to spend a couple of hours at work, you're going to tummy check in a few hours, you'll probably still be full because you've eaten quite a bit now, but just tummy check anyway. And then you're going to go and visit a friend, and then you're going to go to the gym, and then you're going to come back and eat a beautiful, nourishing meal, and you're not going to starve yourself. Because you know what, girlfriend? A little bit of extra food now is not the end of the world. And if it was a lot of extra food, well, then I'm probably not going to be that hungry at dinner. And that's okay too. And then I'm just going to crack on with the rest of my day. And then I'm going to get to bed as fast as I can. And all of this change is going to wire itself in overnight. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow feeling proud that I managed to stop this in its tracks and it didn't continue. And I'm just going to keep doing the work. And I'm going to do that as many times as it takes until I don't have to do this, doesn't take effort anymore, until having a good relationship with food is as easy and automatic as tying my shoelaces. When you tell yourself a good story like that and you get clear on what your movements are for the rest of the day, the chances of you succeeding at getting to bed without further incident go up astronomically. The conversation you have directly after a lapse with yourself, going through these steps, acknowledging disappointment, learning, what could have tripped me up, right, what am I going to do next? Tell yourself a good story. Remind yourself that it is just an inevitable matter of repetitions and time. And the faster you get back on that horse, the faster you're going to start feeling that sense of ease and automagicalness, automation, right? And you tell yourself that story with that sense of calm and self-love. Then take a deep breath and get on with your day. I hope that helps. I'm sure it will, although it was a bit lengthy. I'm sure I could have been a little bit more concise. But this is the most important and critical time. And the more you do this, the more you will automate the skill of, oh, goodness me, I just went, okay, disappointment, no problem. Right, let's get back on the horse. And you become so resilient and so much less self-critical and self-punishing that the whole flywheel begins to spin in the right direction. Because we all know that when we're in a place of self-criticism and guilt and shame, we are way more likely to reach for a behavior that we're not proud of or something we don't want to do in order to escape the pain of our own self-punishment and our own guilt and shame that we are putting on ourselves. Nobody else is putting it on us but us. We are usually our worst critics. And most of the work that I do here is to help you be kind to yourself again, firm, but kind. Compassion doesn't mean don't worry, no problem, move on, softy, rainbows and unicorns. Compassion is, what is the kind thing to do? And the kind thing right now is to stop, to take a moment and to commit to carrying on and to doing the work and not giving up. That's the kind thing. The unkind thing is to be mean and critical and self-loathing, or to just bypass it only to fall right into the trap again because you didn't spend enough time to do this work to make sure you were more likely to succeed. And that's my boss talk for today, folks. Have a wonderful day further. I'll see you on Friday, same time, same place. If you got value from that, please smash the like button. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. I'd love to hear. And actually, I'd just love to hear from you in the comments in general. So, just give me a little thumbs up or a hi there, or better yet, give me a question that I can answer in the next live at lunch. Have a wonderful day further. I'll see you on Friday.